If you're enjoying the stories of the past and the legends that shaped our world, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a new episode from Echoes of Empire. In the endless expanse of the Mongolian steppe, where the wind speaks older than any written word, a child was born who would one day command armies across half the known world. His name was Subutai, son of Jarchigudai, of the Uryankai clan. He was not born of noble blood, nor among the great line of Genghis Khan. Yet in time, even kings and emperors would learn his name in fear and awe. Subutai grew among hunters, in a land where survival shaped wisdom. He learned that strength alone did not rule the steppe. Patience, foresight, and the ability to see beyond the horizon mattered more. These would become the foundation of his genius. In the days when Temujin still fought to unite the Mongol tribes, Subutai was but a young warrior. Yet it was he who opened the gates to his own city for Temujin, pledging his loyalty not through words, but through action. From that moment, his fate was bound to the man who would become Genghis Khan. Where others saw loyalty as duty, Subutai saw it as a shared vision. Genghis sought to unite the tribes. Subutai sought to unite the art of war itself. Together, they would redefine conquest. As the Mongol banners rose across the plains, Subutai began to study war as though it were a living thing. He watched how fear spread faster than fire, how rivers and mountains could serve as allies or traps. He understood that victory began long before the battle. Genghis Khan saw in him a mind unlike any other, a general who could fight without fighting and strike where the world least expected. In 1211, the Mongols turned their gaze toward the Jin dynasty of northern China. Subutai led the vanguard, striking swiftly and unpredictably. Where stone fortresses and walled cities stood as symbols of safety, he found ways to make them prisons for those within. He mastered deception and coordination on scales unseen. When he commanded, his armies did not simply move. They flowed like rivers through mountains, appearing in places deemed impossible. He learned to merge the steppe with the city, the archer with the engineer, the scout with the spy. His strategies transformed the Mongols from nomads into masters of siege and maneuver alike. After the fall of the Jin, Subutai followed Genghis Khan west into the heart of Central Asia. Against the Khwarezmian Empire, he perfected the art of synchronized assault. The Mongols struck from multiple directions, crossing deserts once thought impassable. Cities like Bukhara and Samarkand fell not only by sword, but by confusion. Subutai had discovered something deeper than warfare. He discovered coordination, the merger of distance and intent. It was in these campaigns that he began to craft his greatest innovation, the use of multiple independent armies linked by time rather than proximity. No longer would a war depend on a single front. Subutai's mind stretched across hundreds of miles, predicting the movements of enemies he could not see. It was as if he played chess on a board the size of continents. When Genghis Khan died in 1227, many believed the era of Mongol expansion might end. But for Subutai, it was only the beginning. Under Ogedei Khan, he became the chief architect of conquest. His campaigns in China, Persia, and the far reaches of Europe were not separate wars. They were threads in a single grand design. By 1236, Subutai had turned his gaze to the west once more. The Rus principalities were divided, proud and unprepared for what approached. Winter did not slow the Mongols. Ice became their road. The rivers of Russia froze, and across them Subutai's armies rode like ghosts. In one brutal year, he destroyed the armies of Vladimir, Ryazan, and Kiev. The land burned, but his goal was not destruction. It was testing. He wanted to measure the strength of Europe itself. From the forests of Russia, Subutai's vision expanded toward Hungary and Poland. In 1241, his masterpiece unfolded, a campaign of coordination spanning more than 1,500 kilometers. Two Mongol armies, under Batu Khan and Subutai, moved independently, yet perfectly synchronized. One struck Poland to draw the European knights north. The other swept through Hungary, luring the main force of King Bela IV to the river Sajo. At Mohi, Subutai's brilliance reached its zenith. He encircled an army twice his size, using bridges, fords, and even night maneuver to trap the Hungarians in their own camp. The battle began with confusion and ended in silence. Thousands perished, and when dawn rose, Europe itself trembled. But Subutai was no barbarian in thought. He studied his enemies as scholars study texts. He learned from the Chinese the value of discipline, from the Persians the art of logistics, and from the Europeans the limits of courage. In his mind, war was not chaos. It was mathematics. Each campaign refined the next, each lesson turned into principle. His armies communicated across vast distances with signal fires and riders. His plans spanned years, his supply lines crossed continents. Where others saw boundaries, Subutai saw opportunities to merge. He connected the tactics of the East with the ambitions of the West, the ferocity of the steppe with the precision of empire. He was building a new kind of warfare, one that no single civilization could contain. Then came the unexpected. In 1242, as Subutai prepared to march deeper into Europe, word reached him that the great Khan Ogedei was dead. Mongol law demanded that every prince and commander return home to elect a new ruler. Europe was spared not by victory, but by tradition. Subutai withdrew, his armies fading like a storm receding beyond the horizon. He never returned to Europe. Instead, he continued to serve under the new Khans, planning campaigns in China and the Middle East. Yet in his later years, the vastness of what he had accomplished began to eclipse his name. He had no empire of his own, no monuments or statues. He remained loyal, silent, and unseen. The Mongols remembered Genghis as the soul of conquest. Few remembered that Subutai had been its mind. By the time he died around 1248, he had fought in more than 20 major campaigns, conquered 32 nations, and won 65 battles. No general before or after him commanded such a range of victories over such distances. Yet history often hides its greatest architects behind the banners of their masters. Today, when we speak of Genghis Khan's empire stretching from the Pacific to the Danube, we speak of Subutai's design. He built not through conquest alone, but through unity of motion and purpose. He merged cultures, strategies, and technologies from four corners of the world. His legacy was not just in what he destroyed, but in what he connected. From the frozen rivers of Russia to the deserts of Persia, from the walls of China to the plains of Hungary, Subutai wove the world together in a single web of strategy. It was the mind that conquered continents, and in its silence, the shape of the modern world began to form. The wind still whispers across the Mongolian steppe. It carries the memory of hooves, the echo of commands shouted across battlefields, long forgotten. Somewhere beyond those endless plains, a shadow still rides, unseen but eternal. The strategist who once looked across the earth and saw it whole. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a new episode from Echoes of Empire.